We are now ready to connect the car to the UI manager so that as the car runs, it can update the score, and that score will decrease because remember we're starting at 100, and the faster you make it through the game, the higher the score. So we want to deduct points like each second or something. So we need to go into our car script. And the first thing we need to do is add a couple more variables. So the first variable we're going to add is private int, I'll call this time penalty. So basically this is going to be how much we subtract like each second that the game runs. So I'll just subtract 1. And then I need to create a boolean. So this is going to be private bool. And remember, booleans are just true or false. This is going to be game over. And we are going to initially set that to false. And the reason we need that variable is because when we reach the finish line, we want to set that to true, game over, so that then the time penalty doesn't keep subtracting from our score. Okay, and then one last thing that we need to do, we need to be able to connect the UI manager to the car, or the car to the UI manager. So private. Now this is going to be another, and actually we don't necessarily need to say private on this. This is going to be a serialized field, and this is going to be another one where it depends on how you spelled it. My UI manager is all lowercase, so if you did the same way, that's going to be your data type. So this is going to be a serialized field, and of type UI manager, once again however you spelled it, and then I'm just going to call my variable UI. Okay, let's save this and go back to Unity, and before we do anything else, actually connect the UI manager to the car. So if we go back, give it a second to reload. Okay, when I come up and click on my car and come over to my properties now, under the script I should now see UI, and there it is, and nothing is connected to it. So where is my UI manager? Well, my UI manager is on the canvas. So what I'm going to do is drag the canvas down here to the UI, and now it knows to look at the canvas to find that UI manager script. Okay, let's go back now to our car script. We're probably not going to use the start function or method, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. We can always add it back in if we decide we do need it. And instead, what I'm going to add here now is a fixed update. Update runs once before every frame. Fixed update is based on time, and I believe the default is 50 times per second. So if one person's running, for some reason, a really slow computer only running 30 frames per second, and another one's running at 120 frames per second, this is obviously going to run at different rate, but the fixed update will be the same regardless of machine. So what I want is something that looks like this. So I'm going to do a private void fixed update with a capital F, capital U. And then inside there, I'm going to put an if statement that says if the game is not over. So remember that exclamation mark is how we say not. Just like in JavaScript, when we say not equal to, we do the exclamation mark equal sign. So this is saying not game over, so the game's not over. If it's not over, then what I wanted to do is I wanted to go to the UI, which we just connected the UI manager to, and find our update score method that's in there. And then after that, I'm going to say score minus equals time penalty, which is our 1, times time, and then pay attention to this is a little bit different, time dot fixed delta time. So it's not just fixed time this time, but not just delta time, it's fixed delta time because we're in the fixed updates. Okay, so we now have a fixed update that should be running about 50 times per second. Now when I save this, I think we're going to have an issue. Let me save this and go back and look and see, and I do. Cannot implicitly convert float to int. So back when we created this, it seemed to make sense to make int or score an int because I want the score to be 100, then 99, then 98. I don't care about the decimals. However, when I get down to this line, this is now a decimal because time penalty 1 times the fixed delta time, that's going to be times a decimal. So what I'm going to need to do here, I could cast this as an int, but what's going to happen is it's actually going to end up rounding it down to 0. I think the best fix is actually going to be to just change score to a float. And that's going to create another problem, because if we go back to our UI manager and look at our update score, it's expecting an int. So I need to now change that to a float as well, because I'm going to be sending it a float instead of an int. So let's save both of those and go back and see if we have any errors now. And it doesn't look like it, so let me run this and make sure that there are no errors. Okay, so it's working, but I am getting decimals now because I changed it to a float, and I don't necessarily want that. I mean, it's not a big deal. You could leave it that way if you want to, but let me see if I hit the obstacle. Oops, yep, I definitely subtracted, and then it caused me to crash. So if I want to show only or integers, what I can do is go back to the UI manager. And right here, so it's taking a float, but I don't have to display a float. I can display an integer. So what I can do is right before this s, I can actually cast it as an integer. So if we just simply put in parentheses int before that s, that is going to now cast that as an integer instead of a float. Even though it is a float, before it displays it, it'll convert it. So let's save that and go back now to our scene, let it reload. And there we go. We can see that now it's still counting down in decimals, but it's only displaying it as an integer. And if I come up and hit my obstacle, very good, it subtracts 5 each time. So now our car script is connected to that UI manager and updating our score. So next video, we will now add in all of our obstacles, and then we will do a little bit to dress up the scene, make it a dark scene with some glowing objects, and then add a finish line with some nice effects when we hit the finish line, and then we'll be done.